Four French drivers at the French Grand Prix trying to win this on the final lap. They're three wide again. Guillaume down the inside. Guillaume moves across. They're both in front of Milan and Puget.
But before you know it, we find ourselves here in the very final race of the competition.
And then they see truck racing and they think, this is crazy. You know, these are 5-ton machines, 1,200 horsepower brake.
Oh, look at that switchback. Oh, he's been mugged and it's ready to go out.
Now, I love it. 16.5 minutes gone. Senna Lanson tries to go for the race lead.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favourite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Chaz Draycott Media, and welcome to the season finale of Season 4 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. We're here at the incredible Suzuka International Racing Course in Japan for what is going to be an amazing final round of the series, back to our usual format of a 1-hour race with a forced pit stop or two based on limited fuel in each of the cars. The championship itself is already wrapped up, however, there's still plenty to play for when it comes to the other positions down the field and the team's championship as well, and we're going to be trying to give you every little bit of information we can along the way. And it's going to be Chaz Draycott and Ed May up here in the commentary box once again. Ed, a great final ahead of us here this evening. It's certainly a great place to come racing though, isn't it, Suzuka? It's a massive challenge in these sorts of cars.
It really is great to be here. It's a circuit that a lot of the drivers have been looking forward to all season, hasn't it, Chaz? Every time we've spoken to them, they think, oh, season finale at Suzuka. It's just a wonderful thing to go racing at, and I think it's going to give us some excellent entertainment to cap off what has been a brilliant season.
Yep, definitely will be. There's lots to keep an eye on, like I say, in the Teams Championship in particular. We'll look at the standings as they are as we come here to the season finale. Nils Kaur is the champion of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge for Season 4, and he's done an amazing job of doing it as well. So consistent all season. Only 2 results all campaign where he was not on the podium. It has been amazing to watch. Simon Povey on his return has actually made his way back up the standings as well, and now runs in second place ahead of Taylor Adams, who has been Nils' closest rival all season, it's safe to say. James Holman and Christopher Smith doing a great job for RD Simsport, 4th and 5th at this present moment, and what a great season Christopher Smith's having, especially taking that race win as well at Phillip Island. But Danny Lee is tied on points with Chris, so we've got to keep our eye out for that. Dominic Brennan and Matt Slight only 1 point apart as well, and even further down, look, Kyle Ridley and Dean Powell, they're only separated by 5 points, Ed, but it's that team's championship battle that's going to keep us guessing over the course of the night.
Yeah, it really is. I know, like you say, there's going to be some very tight battles. I am also intrigued by those 2 tied on points, Danny Lee and Christopher Smith, both up there. Obviously, Christopher Smith just ahead of Danny Lee on sort of best finishing performance, because let's not forget, Christopher Smith after this season over the course of the season has become a race winner, wasn't he, in the second race at Phillip Island? A great performance by him, just ahead of Danny Lee. But I think that's going to be one to really look forward to, as well as obviously that team's championship, which is closed right down in this closing stage of the season.
Yeah, definitely gets closer and closer every single moment that we watch. At the moment, we have our practice session currently going on, and we're looking at the highest placed driver that is at least out there on circuit, which is Danny Lee in the Danny Lee Pro Simrig car. But it's actually Mike Murphy for Minardi Simsport that is currently quickest at the moment by 0.2 of a second. Mike doing an amazing job in the BMW. He's been really campaigning to show us how good that car is all season. It's great to see that the time and effort that they've put into driving it has paid off. Dominic Brennan is here again tonight, which is good to see. I was worried that due to his connection issues that he's had before now, that Dom may not take part tonight, but he is here. We've got Simon Povey back once again as well in the Spontex CDM Esports pink car. We do need to look at Ben Chalcraft, who's running a different livery again this evening. He's in the Loaded Nachos livery, which we've seen a couple of times. But there are a few other drivers that are running similar liveries to that as well. Christopher Smith back in the RD Simsport colours. I think he got a bit of a telling off by the team boss. The Regenta cars, though, are in what they're calling the Koi car for this final race meeting of the season. I really like this thing. It's a clever little design.
It does look very pretty, actually. Yeah, the Regenta Sim Racing was using a nice, lovely little Japanese-inspired livery with the koi, and like you say, Chaz, it is interesting that all the drivers have chosen their own little ways of sort of celebrating the final race of the season. Of course, everyone getting on board with the with the Seabrooks colours is going to be interesting, to say the least, because we've got two BMWs with a very similar liveries here. Dennis Van Beelen in, well, one of them, and Nils Core in the other.
Yes, Nils Core with the Satellite Racing logo on the front. The only difference really is the rear wing on that thing and the logo as well, the actual Satellite Racing logo on it. James Holman has just improved his time in the Mercedes. He's moved up to 10th position at the moment. Paul Goffin is not wearing one of the Seabrooks liveries, I can tell you. We've got Heinz and Ralph Meyer out on circuit tonight as well, which is lovely to see. Their teammate Kim Such also on circuit. I don't think we've got Ryan Penny here tonight, unfortunately. Looking through the order, we're just looking for Seabrooks cars, to be honest with you. We've got John Roberts in there, Matt Slight is in the Koi car, which, again, I really love that. It's really, really clean. Danny Lee and the Pro Sim Rig guys are not running it, but I'm waiting to see. Apparently Rob Sharp, if we just go... Yes, Rob Sharp is in Seabrooks livery. There's a McLaren in the Seabrooks livery as well, actually. Who on earth is that? Is that Toby Johns? No. Toby Johns is in the...
Is that Mike Murphy in the BMW? What is that BMW?
What on God's earth is that? Is that a Mr. Blobby livery? It is, isn't it? This is Mike Murphy we're on board with now. Stephen Burns. Stephen Burns is in the Mr. Blobby livery. For Christ's sake, Stephen. He did actually make a joke about it in the Discord the other day that he was going to potentially do it. I'm just trying to figure out who that other McLaren is with the yellow and white stripes on it, because Toby Johns isn't in that livery. He's in his blue livery. Taylor Adams is in the Koi car. But it looks like from here, it looked like it was a Seabrooks livery actually, but it's not. I do apologise.
From a distance.
Yeah, it looked like it had the wavy stripes along the bonnet.
Stephen Burns is going to stick out like a sore thumb, but he doesn't have the pink wheels.
I'm not looking at it. I refuse. No, I refuse to look at that. He joked about it in the Discord earlier because there was a great post by Dennis Van Beelen where it was just a picture of loads of crisps and then two fish in the middle, which is Matt and Taylor, because he was expecting the whole grid to do it. Stephen Burns said almost and then put a picture of Mr. Blobby in the corner, and I just thought he was referring to his driving or something. But no, he's on about the fact that he's actually wearing a Mr. Blobby livery. I can't even say it properly. So that's triggered me. Bad childhood memories of Mr. Blobby. He's a terrifying character. But still, it's great that, you know, the Minardi Simsport boys, Ben Chalcraft and Mike Murphy, have really brought this on board this season, and it's taken over the Discord server, it's taken over the community behind the championship. Everybody is constantly posting where they see a pack or a multi-pack of Seabrooks crisps and how much they are per pack and so on, and sharing it all throughout the season. It's been pretty hilarious, to be fair, but
I think they even actually noticed, weren't they, by the official Seabrooks Twitter account as well.
Yeah, Ben was on there. He didn't have the decal layer on, though. I was very upset. Ben didn't have the decal layer on the car in the image that he submitted.
Wasn't representing
No, I was very upset. Very, very upset. But still.
Next season, we'll get him on it.
Yeah, it is what it is. But still, practice is now over. So we're going to head into the final qualifying session of the season here at Suzuka. And I'm really excited to see how this one ends up, you know, because there could be a surprise winner at the end of the season here. We have usually got what we call last day of school vibes, where certain drivers just absolutely go for it, put in a surprise performance ahead of the next championship. The dates for the next season have been announced, by the way, so the announcement did go up in the Discord. There will be another announcement on the ChazDraycott.com website at some point in the near future as well, with all of the dates there and the special event which we have in a couple of weeks' time, just 2 weeks from today actually, on the 7th of May, which will be the Sim Racing Magazine Modern Classics GT3 mashup, which I'm looking forward to. We've got a few more cars, by the way, running the livery of Seabrooks. I just saw him come out of the pits there. Where is Martin Kenyon on my list? There he is. He's also in the Ready Salted livery, by the look of it. We did get an idea that Rob Sharp was in the livery as well. There he is. He's in the yellow and white machine. That's Nils Core just in front of him there. I also saw another fancy new livery just heading out onto the circuit, and that was the one of Mark Johnson, who's running the Aston Martin green livery for this final round as Legends Racing. So he's the only one that's changed the livery to not a Seabrooks one from his usual one, but still. Actually, no, Regenta, I do apologise. Still, looks very, very good on that Vantage. Dominic Brennan there is trying to stick with the Pro Sim Rig boys, isn't he? He wants some of that tasty slipstream during this qualifying session.
Trying to get as much of the slipstream as possible, Chaz. And there's long, flat-out sections where you can really make it work to your benefit, especially coming through here, that tight hairpin, and then the long, flat-out run around the bend. But for now, they're just trying to work together, aren't they? Giving themselves enough space so they don't get caught up in the middle of the lap, which is going to slow them down.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's very, very easy to do so. We look here at Matt Slight in car number 53, the Koi car, not the Koi Carp. He's chasing down Taylor Adams, the two of them doing what they can now to just seal extra points in the championship. Let's not forget that it's them trying to overtake RD Simsport. They need a really tidy night of it here, do these two McLarens. Flying down the start-finish straight here at Suzuka, though. Turn 1 and Turn 2, to be fair, always a really scary prospect, especially in a car like the McLaren, where you've got all that weight over the sort of middle of the car. It also really affects the rear axle. It's got a skinny back end on it, and it really does like to over-rotate on the brakes. You've seen it a lot this season, actually, haven't we, where the car has sort of overdone itself on the downshifts as well. It particularly just sort of snatches the rear axle, and around it goes very quickly. But not normally in corners like this, where it's sort of long, sweeping corners. It's usually the sort of sharper, heavier braking zones, isn't it?
It doesn't like the curbs too much. I think we've noticed it before, haven't we, Chaz, where it really doesn't like the bumps whatsoever.
No.
So that could also be potentially a factor.
Absolutely. We look here then at Taylor Adams, a man that was in the hunt for the championship for a long, long time. Big slide there by Matt Slight. Matt Slide, we could call him. But these two have been a great addition to the grid, very entertaining all season. And we have just this final race of the championship for them to hopefully get some more points on the board. Mike Horder back with us again for Boosted Motorsport. He's got his teammate John Roberts just behind him in the Mercedes. Two of them running their usual very striking liveries for Boosted Motorsport. I love that hairpin as well. That's going to be a very key part of the circuit tonight, that hairpin. We're going to see a lot of overtaking manoeuvres into there. Here's Nils Core, your newly crowned champion of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. Really embracing the fun of the league as well by running this different livery with his teammate Dennis Van Beelen. But Nils has been such a deserving champion, hasn't he, Ed? He's been absolutely on it all season. He had that horrible look in round 1, where after the winter tour we thought, you know, he could definitely be a champion. And then he just had the worst possible start with that incident with Matt Slight on lap 1 of the season. Since then, though, other than one iffy result in a sprint race, he has been absolutely on fire.
He really has been, you know, Chaz. He's been just so clever about how he's approached every single race this season, obviously accounting for the fact that one of his biggest challenges, Simon Povey, wasn't able to make every single round. It meant that he didn't necessarily have to fight as hard and could just score the points. A very sort of do a Turkington, like you've been saying all season long, Chaz. Just get some good points on the board and then just reap the rewards later down the line.
In the last 8 races in the championship, there's only been one occasion where him and Simon weren't filling up 2 steps of the podium, you know. And that was round 13 of the season, where Simon finished in 4th place behind Nils. It's unbelievable. The two of them have just been so consistent. Simon up at the top by over half a second. It was a second a moment ago. Nils Core goes 3rd fastest, nearly a second off. Simon really wrangling this McLaren around here. He was in the practice session with some of the guys last night, actually. I think Andy Marston and Drew Fletcher were in there just having a couple of laps in. And they were saying that they were just watching the way that Simon attacks the corners, and it's just amazing the way that he carries so much pace through every single one. And he's got such confidence as well. That's the thing. You have to have the confidence in the car, don't you, to be able to just throw it in and score whatever sort of speed you can at the apex before then focusing on the exit.
Yeah, I mean, the McLaren's a very pointy car. We have seen it before, haven't we? Where it likes to turn in, but then what comes afterwards can sometimes be a bit unpredictable. But for all the drivers that have been piloting that McLaren, there have been none that have really been able to match Simon's level of control that he's shown all season long. James Holman there in the Mercedes. This could be a good car on the circuit, you know, Chaz. It's got a lot of grunt to it, similar to the BMW, and with those straights, it could really benefit from it.
Yeah, definitely. There's one of the best things about the GT4 balance of performance is how close all the cars are. You know, they do still have their strengths and weaknesses, and we get to witness them as well. You know, over the course of a race, you can pick them apart because of that. But I think that it's the fact that they are so even, despite those strengths and weaknesses as well. You know, we've had a really solid championship once again. Just a quick notice, everybody. Ed and I are just going to quickly change Discords again. We're still having the sort of connection-based fragmentation, let's call it, that we've had in previous rounds. So if you just bear with us 2 seconds, we're just going to change Discord. Hopefully it'll make it better, and we'll be back with you in just a sec. Okay, and quickly as that, we are all sorted. At the moment, it's Simon Povey quickest, ahead of James Holman, Taylor Adams. Christopher Smith has just gone 4th in the BMW. The BMW is actually quite nicely sort of sprinkled amongst the top 10, really, at the moment, Ed. We've got Stephen Burns in 14th, but I'm not putting him on screen because of that atrocity that is that livery, as Nils Kaur goes 5th fastest.
Nils Kaur, fastest of the BMWs, like you say. They are peppered around, like you've mentioned, but for now, it seems Nils is going to be best of the bunch. Got 2 McLarens up inside the top 3. Taylor Adams doing a good job for Regenta Sim Racing, but it's that little championship battle, isn't it, between Regenta and RD that we're going to be trying to focus on a bit towards sort of over the course of the evening, isn't it, Chaz? Because that seems to be, I think, where the closest fight's going to be. Yeah,
definitely. There's going to be a lot of great scraps to keep our eye on tonight. I've got the spreadsheet open, and to be honest, I still don't know where to look. I love this livery on Rob Sharp's Porsche. It's annoying how much it suits it, to be fair to you. Rob's cars have always looked good as well. He does his own liveries for the Albury Racing Team, but even this as well, which I believe has been knocked up by Martin Kenyon. I think Martin has run with it that he wanted basically the majority of the field, if I can get my words out, to be covered in this Seabrooks livery. And, well, some of the guys have taken him up on the offer, and it looks fantastic. Danny Lee and Dean Powell, by the way, no laps on the board yet from either of the Aston Martins in the Danny Lee Pro Simrig team. But again, working together on the circuit to just try and find a gap. But still, even if they'd have done a slow lap, it'd still show on the board, I guess.
I think it might be the off-tracks that have been hampering them a bit, because this is a long lap, and if you do make one mistake, run a little bit wide, especially through 130 like we're going through now, all of that hard work just gets completely wiped clean. So we'll see if this is going to work out a little bit better for them now as they come up to the line.
Yeah, around the final corner they go. It's always so tricky to get that last sector right, because with it being such a long lap here at Suzuka, if you do get a little tiny bit wrong, you know that you maybe don't have to put so much pressure on yourself in that final corner. But if you get it right for the whole lap and then it falls apart there, it is devastating. Dean Powell, again, with an off-track on that lap, means that he's not put a time on the board. Drew Fletcher hasn't put a time on the board just yet. He's just crossing the line now, actually. He goes 20th fastest. Don't forget, top 20 in the race are the ones that score points. We've got Ben Chalcraft back on our screens, and some people will think that that livery reminds them of the Falcon Tyres livery that you often see in a lot of GT racing, and especially drifting as well, with the white wheels on it too. Certainly looks the part. But for me, it reminds me of, in 2001, there was a company called Egg Sport that ran 2 Vauxhall Astras in the British Touring Car Championship, and it looks very similar to their livery. I think they also ran the same livery in 2002, but can't be too sure. They might have reverted back to it a few seasons later, but at one point they were this teal and blue colour, and I think it was maybe 2002 actually where they went to a red and blue livery. Matt Neal ran the number 0 in 2002, which I found very strange. It's only been run by a number of drivers in the past. I think it was Damon Hill, was it Alan Prost famously ran, no, I think it was Damon Hill ran number 0 when he raced for Williams in 1993. There's not many people that do that. Mike Murphy, we didn't get to see much of him earlier. He's in a new livery for this evening. I think it's the nacho cheese livery. I think Ben did mention it to me earlier. No, it's the I can't say it. Worcestershire sauce livery that Chris ran last week. Ben actually said, I'm slightly concerned he's pretending to be his teammate as he's dissatisfied with Ben's performances. Bless him.
It's lovely to see, though, the continuation of the Minardi Simsport sort of takeover, haven't we, from the Seabrook crisps that have invaded the field. Like Murphy getting in on it as well, though, changing, like you say, to maybe say that he wants a better teammate for next season. We'll see if that'll be the case.
Well, we hope not, for Ben's sake. The Minardi Simsport guys have been a great addition to the championship. Nico Minardi as well took part in the Winter Tour. And these guys were I think it was Renvort Remnants they were called when they raced in the Cours au Mont not too long ago. Dominic Brennan's just gone third fastest here, ahead of Taylor Adams and Nils Kaur. So welcome back, Dom. It looks like he's not having that bad a connection issue tonight either, so he's certainly back on the pace, and he needs to be, because in the championship he is right with Christopher Smith. The two of them on 100... Sorry, I'm thinking of Danny Lee. Danny Lee and Christopher Smith on 188 points each. Dominic Brennan is 1 point ahead of Matt Slight in the championship. Matt down there in 8th position in this qualifying session right now. No improvement that time round either for him. There's a few drivers with green sectors, though. Dennis Van Beelen pops up into 11th place ahead of Rob Sharp. It's amazing, though, isn't it, Ed? It really shows you the quality of the field. Rob Sharp, always a front runner in the championship and has been since day one. Currently finds himself in 12th position. He's not really that far off the pace either. It's just remarkable how close and quick the field has gotten.
Yeah, definitely. I'm still keeping my eyes on the RD Simsport and Regenta battle, and of course we've got the Christopher Smith and Danny Lee. They're tied on points in the championship, and they're, well, a position apart, aren't they? They're going to be lining up potentially alongside each other on the grid.
Yeah, absolutely. It's bound to be a close battle until the very end. We see the Aston Martin now roaring its way down towards Spoon Curve. There's another one in front of him as well, which is Mike Horder in car 42. And again, Mike Horder, another usual front runner in the championship, has been very, very quick. He's had a few podiums in the GT4 Challenge, but he is down in 14th position at the moment. You know, even Paul Goffin's always right up there, 16th at the minute. You know, it's just awesome, really awesome for the championship to see how competitive it is. We don't have a full field here this evening, but we've got 26 cars back with us once again. And at the moment, it's still Simon Povey that is top of them. And let's not forget, actually, Ed, in the Winter Tour that we did not too long ago, it was Simon Povey that took a very dominant victory here at Suzuka in the first ever sprint race that we've done in the championship.
Yeah, well, it is a slightly different format than what Simon obviously took that great victory in last night, isn't it? It's the familiar, all too familiar 1 hour endurance race. So we're going to see if any drivers can maybe try a different strategy to dethrone what looks to be a very comfortable race for Simon coming up, because half a second clear. I mean, it's a long lap, but still, that's very impressive.
Yeah, definitely. It's absolutely mega stuff to see, as always. But Simon, as we've discussed many a time, is just absolutely on another level sometimes, and it's terrifying. Really, really terrifying. We were talking about it with Dan McCauley, who jumped into the commentary box last week as well. We thank Dan again for jumping in. It was really good fun to have him in the commentary box with us, get another driver's perspective as well. And you can see here, Nils Kaur really pushing the car through turns 1 and 2. But again, one of the trickiest parts of the circuit, isn't it, Ed? The way that the car wants to slow down. Also, you don't want it to over-rotate, but the back end tries to just throw itself into the grandstands very easily.
Yeah, there's a lot of different characteristics, I think, between all the cars, and I think me, it's the BMW's the more stable. As Mike Odeny throws himself into the grandstands there. What was going on there? Just saw him off the circuit for a brief moment, but for the briefest of moments, as we focus now on a different Aston Martin, this time Mark Johnson for Legends Racing, sitting down in 17th place, but he'll be chasing down some good points on his final race of the season. Not just his final race of the season, of course, everyone has final race of the season. It's a bit redundant. But here we go. Qualifying's come to an end, and because it is not a heat race, the drivers are able to cross the line and finish the laps that they are on. No more improvements to Simon Povey, but there could be an improvement on the cards this time for Paul Goffin as he's rounding out the final corner. Listen tight to the line. 18th place he was, and 18th place he'll seem to stay as there's no improvement coming through for him.
Mike Murphy and Danny Lee both not improving over this lap either, but Dean Powell, by the look of it, could be about to upset somebody's day. 3 green sectors from Dean, but no improvement outright for him. Dominic Brennan crossing the line, nothing there either. Mark Johnson and Heinz Meyer really through the air. We come to Heinz and he's in takeoff mode at the moment, really hopping and skipping and jumping over the curbs. Ralph Meyer behind him as well, trying it. I can never decide, boys, whether I say it Meyer or Meyer. I do apologise. But the two of them not improving on their laps. Drew Fletcher to the right-hand side, nothing there for him. Nils Kaur around the final corner has done a purple sector 5 on this lap. Does that move him higher up the order? Yes, it does. No, it doesn't. Sorry, it was Taylor Adams that went ahead. Taylor Adams and Matt Slight are the ones that get the lap. I was that ready to see a car jump up the order that the two Coys have quite literally jumped out the water there and snapped the time away from the guys in front. Great stuff by those two McLarens right at the end of the session.
Very important for the Teams Championship as well, isn't it? 2 Regenta Sim Racing cars inside the top 4, just 1 RD Sim Sport car in amongst them. James Holman is going to be sandwiched between the two Coys. I'm not sure, you can't really call it a sandwich, can you, with the Coys around it? Maybe sushi.
Yes, yeah, it absolutely is sushi instead of sandwich, yeah. It's the worst bread in the world, isn't it, really? But still, James Holman round the final corner of the car, a little bit wiggly there, but he's had a purple sector 3 on this lap. He's improved in sector 5, no improvement at the end. Is it enough to move him back in front? Oh, 0.004 of a second off Taylor Adams, and his teammate Christopher Smith gains another place. Nils Kaur qualifies 7th on the grid for the final race of the season. That is not what we would have expected, but at the end of the day, Nils not putting himself under as much pressure now because he's got the title wrapped up already, and the two RD Simsport guys complete the session. Very lively stuff at the end, but another championship point going to Simon Povey here, Ed, so he needs to just do what he can to stay ahead of Taylor Adams in this final race. He's got 10 points on him in the championship at the moment. He just needs to secure that second place with a good, solid result here.
Yeah, definitely Simon Povey there with so many poles this season. He's probably lost count, and so have we. He's been just on top of every single circuit we go to. Whenever he's been there, he's been right up there with a shout for either pole position or definitely on the front row, such as just his pace around a single lap, but also his consistency is what we're going to see next around this circuit, because he's just so difficult to try and get the better of. And I think we're going to see a lot of drivers try maybe an alternate strategy to see if they can get ahead and maybe slow him down, like what we saw, didn't we, from Danny Lee last time out.
Yeah, absolutely. Track position was really important at Motegi, and we saw a bit of that with drivers just trying to get an undercut, just try and move themselves away from battles as the race went on. I just want to give a quick shout out to our championship sponsors, by the way. Oris Digital, Crockery Direct, Derbyshire Holiday Homes and Bespoke Shelters. Thank you so much for the support once again for another season of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. It has been a joy to have you on board. So, Simon Povey, pole position for the final time this season, with Taylor Adams alongside him on the front row. James Holman and Matt Slight make up a very spicy row 2, ahead of Dominic Brennan and Christopher Smith. You can tell Regenta and RD are not messing around here, with all 4 cars in the top 6. Nils Kaur starts 7th on the grid alongside Danny Lee, with Mike Murphy inside the top 10 and Dennis Van Beelen completing said top 10 in that number 69 BMW. Dean Powell next up in car 24. He's alongside Rob Sharp in 12th place. Then it's Mike Horder and Ben Chalcraft on the 7th row. Heinz Meyer and Stephen Burns make up row 8, ahead of Mark Johnson and Paul Goffin. Ralph Meyer is 19th, with Martin Kenyon in 20th, ahead of Drew Fletcher and Toby Johns. We then have John Roberts and Kim Such, with Gilles Gardner and Andrew Marston completing the field. So once again, Ed, money on Simon Povey here tonight. What do you reckon?
I think if you were a betting man and bet against Simon, you'd be a fool. You'd be a very poor betting man, because he's just been time and time again just converting these pole positions into race victories, and I struggle to see close to him. Oh my word, that's a horrifying sight. That's completely thrown me off track there. Just the blob emerging into my field of view there. Completely lost my train of thought there.
Well, you did it just as your voice cut out as well, so it sounded fantastic. We've got Mark Johnson alongside Stephen Burns on that row of the grid. I didn't want to sound too harsh on Stephen, so we will show the livery, but this is all you're going to see of it, everybody. It is god-awful, but in the best way. We love you, Stephen. Fantastic banter all throughout the season from these guys. And again, it just highlights what a great fun community we've got here in the Sim Racing Magazine Discord. And all of these drivers have been really getting on board with it. Round 15, the final round of the season, is underway from Suzuka, and there's already a bit of contact between Taylor Adams and James Holman round the final corner, but leading them down the straight, as always, is Simon Povey. An excellent start from Simon along the pit wall, moves over to the left, and into turns 1 and 2 they go. They've got to take it very, very carefully through here. There's so many Seabrooks cars, you'd think that there was just one team that had a lottery over the rest of the field, or a monopoly of the field, so to speak. Everybody making it through nice and tidy by the look of it. Dean Powell has gained 2 places already, but that is fluctuating now as he's side by side with Mike Murphy in the BMW, Ed.
Yeah, Dean Powell's really in the thick of it here, isn't he? Right in behind Mike Murphy. You can just see so many cars just vying for position through the S's in this first part of the lap. But now look at the run that Dean's going to have, but there's nowhere really to go.
No, absolutely. It's one of those corners. You can try going all the way around the outside, but you're just not going to get anywhere before the Degners. It is a nightmare of a corner to try and get right as well, the Degners, especially if you cannot see past the car in front of you. We ride on board here with James Holman. He was right behind Taylor Adams a moment ago, but again, through Degner 2, just had to back out of it and not overdo it. Taylor's going to want to go chasing after Simon Povey, and to be fair, James Holman wants a race victory this season. He's not had one just yet. Nils Kaur, newly elected champion, is dropping down slightly here. He's having a bit of a battle with Danny Lee and the Aston Martin. Those two are right with each other. There's a bit of shenanigans further back, apparently. I think John Roberts had a bit of a moment with Kim Such at the hairpin. Look at these two so close together into Spoon Curve. You've got to be really careful through there, and even careful when you're going through there on your own, actually, because the AstroTurf will spin you around. Nils Kaur all over the back of the little Aston Martin now. This Beamer makes it look tiny.
Yeah, but now Nils Kaur is going to be forced to the outside, and there's no way you can really overtake around the outside through 130R. But the speed that Nils Kaur is catching is that he's going to be right there with him.
Oh my goodness!
Around the outside. Oh, he runs very wide there, and he's going to have to seek a position, you would imagine.
Or is he? Not in your life, he says. Have it. Have some of that. No chance. Wow, I would have thought he'd get a slowdown penalty for that, to be honest with you, if he ran that wide.
So as well.
We might have to wait and see if he does start dropping positions. But either way, first lap is in the books, and it's Simon Povey leading the way. Taylor Adams in second place. James Holman's dropped back a little bit. Then Matt Slight has got Dominic Brennan and Christopher Smith for company. You've got to think about the Regenta versus RD battle here, and whether Dominic Brennan in that Spontex CDM Esports Porsche could be a little spoiler in the pack for them. But still, great, exciting start to the race, and it's interesting to actually be racing here in daytime rather than under lights like we were at the Winter Tour.
Yeah, it is very strange, isn't it? But it's good to see, because we found out in the Winter Tour that, well, obviously you can see all of the floodlights around the circuit. In the nighttime, they don't actually turn on.
No, they don't do anything.
not good for a viewing perspective, so we've elected to have the race of the day now.
Yes. I was hoping that it would be
see all of the Seabrooks cars.
Oh yeah, all the packets of crisps. I mean, we've got 3 or 4 of them in shot right now, to be honest with you. With Nils Kaur, then Mike Murphy, then Dennis Van Beelen, and then even Rob Sharp as well. So, yeah, plenty of crisps, and then even Ben Chalcraft just behind. So, yeah, it's certainly it's a very savoury field, to say the least. All through the hairpin they go. Like I say, lovely corner. Very difficult to try and get an overtake done into there cleanly, because you have to really compromise yourself as you throw the car in on the brakes. Simon Povey, though, I don't think this guy knows what a brake pedal is, to be honest with you. He's absolutely flying once again. Taylor Adams really putting the work in to stay with him in this early stage, though. Great stuff from Taylor.
Yeah, Taylor Adams doing a good job for Regenta Sim Racing. Exactly what needs to be done for the championship. Try and get one over on RD Sim Sport, but I think as it stands, he will just hang on, isn't it, Chaz?
Yes, RD will stand in second place. First place. I do apologise, boys. They will basically hold on to the position by... Just trying to figure this out now. If Taylor Adams is going to score 22 points for where he's finishing now, Matt Slight would score 18. RD would get 20 and 15. They would hold on by still 12 points. So there's a really, really good difference between them. You can see Simon Povey once again breaking the slipstream here. This is his usual strategy, isn't it? Of just trying to get away, not have to worry about saving fuel. As, oh, dearie me, Martin Kenyon has ended up in the entrance to the pit lane here, Ed. There's been some weird drama down there.
So like, oh, he's just overcooked it on the curb. This sends him into a spin, and then he's essentially, it came very close to actually Austin Powers in it, didn't he? Getting it completely stuck sideways.
That's a real shame for Martin Kenyon. I've actually ended up upside down along the top of that pit wall before in an Audi R8 when I raced in the World GT Championship. Had a bit of contact with a driver in practice and ended up going over the pit wall and doing a Tony Hawk's grind down the whole thing. It was very embarrassing. And it was live on stream as well, which was quite funny. Still, Nils Core, he's not really got any pressure on him, has he, at the moment? He's just vibing, bouncing around in that BMW, loving life. He doesn't need to win the race. He doesn't need to finish anywhere particular. He is the champion, and he can just enjoy this last race. And, well, the joy of just racing in this championship, I guess.
Yeah, and even if obviously it was going to be a tight championship fight that might have gone down to the final round between him and Simon, even if he didn't score the prerequisite points, he could still have another race like this, getting 7th, and that would have still been enough for him to win the championship. But he's been able to get it with a round to spare, so he doesn't even need to worry about potentially losing his championship for it through a go out there. And maybe we'll see him race a little bit harder towards the end of the race because he hasn't got anything really to lose.
No, absolutely. He's just got to keep just pounding around, basically. Doesn't need to do anything in particular. He's got this great battle going on in front of him, though. Dominic Brennan right in the thick of it. Dom will be really pleased to be back in this scrap, actually, because let's not forget he's lost a bunch of rounds in the championship based on his connection issues that he's had. And now he's back in full force by the look of it, although BMW right behind was Christopher Smith. Had a bit of a tap there, actually, and we almost saw the usual effect that we see from the new damage model, where the car behind is the one that sort of bounces off the one in front. So Christopher Smith, I think, caught out slightly there, but Nils Core now trying to make the move on him down the inside. He'll feel a little bit hard done by there. He's only going to lose 1 point if Nils goes through. Very brave stuff down the inside there by the German, but he gets it done. Chris is going to try and go for the cutback, but I don't think he's going to be able to make it work there before they go up the S's.
Nils Core just up ahead of Christopher Smith. Just could potentially set his sights on Dom running just up the road. Danny Lee, we saw at the start of the race, managed to get one over on Nils, but then obviously lost out through 130R, and since then he hasn't exactly been able to have that same pace up through the field. But of course, is for 5th in the championship, I believe, Chaz, isn't it? Danny Lee and Christopher Smith.
Yeah, the two of them glued to each other right now. Chris losing 1 place since where the race started, but they are absolutely tied on points. And I think, funnily enough as well, they're actually tied on the same number of points as Danny Lee's race number, 188. As Danny actually sends it down the inside, he says, you know what, I'm not just going to sit here and let this one lie. Let's have a go at this. Wiggles the Aston Martin out of the hairpin, but that outside line is really what you want, isn't it? Christopher Smith using the wider run out of the corner to just catapult that car down the road and just stay in front for now.
Yeah, and again, that Aston Martin, it really struggles putting the power down, and it seems to get the track control cutting in much more aggressively than any other GT3, or not GT4, sorry, than I've driven on the surface, especially from my experience driving and racing in that car. Track control just is so aggressive coming out of corners, so you need to be very deft on the throttle.
This is Drew Fletcher. Oh no, Toby Johns has had a moment in front of him there. Drew has to jump off the circuits trying to avoid. I think Toby just had a spin all on his own. Drew recovers, loses a few places as a result. This is what happens to Toby. There's that effect again that we mentioned before. The car behind, the one making contact, the car behind being the one that comes off worse because of it. It's a very strange effect. It's very R-Factor-esque, as Simon Povey, with 9 minutes of the race done, has come into the pits.
Again, he's just trying to maybe do this strategy where maybe he sees something that we don't, because for me, he's going to come out maybe in the midst of a bit of traffic potentially. I think he's going to come out just...
No, he'll be all right, I think.
This train of cars now.
He's going to be all good, yeah. Okay, he's come out in pretty much clear air.
Okay.
Jill Gardner is a decent amount up the road. That is Andy Marston just going past him. And based on what Andy was saying the other day, I don't think he's going to try and hold up Simon Povey. I think it's
still
easier said than done.
I'm not so sure if this is going to be the right call, you know, Chaz. I think he's going to catch up to that traffic pretty quickly. We know that the majority of the field doesn't pit until around about 35 minutes to go in the race. Simon is easily going to catch up to those drivers with the pace that he's been showing so far this race. and then he's going to maybe get held up with their own battles, and that's when we're going to see likes of Taylor Adams, James Holman, their lap be able to potentially pull a deficit to him through the pit lane.
Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it, really? I suppose he's got to roll the dice. At the end of the day, he's not really got a hold on a lot of points ahead of Taylor Adams behind him in the championship. He's still got 10 points on him if they finished in first and second. So as long as he finishes within a couple of places of Taylor, he should be all right. We'll have to see, though, how he gets on in the long run. He's already passed Andy Marston and got a second on him. He's now got 4.6 seconds to Gilles Gardner, so that's a good lap or so regardless, before he then catches up to the back end of the field, even when he's on maximum attack.
But it's not going to be just Gilles is in sort of, I guess, the tail end of a train of cars, isn't he? If we just come to look at Gilles, I think we'll see that there's a bit of a battle going on, and whilst I might be able to get ahead of them pretty quickly, the time that he's going to lose, because they're all going to be close together, potentially battling, is going to be quite significant.
We ride on board now with Gilles Gardner going through the final couple of corners. He's got Drew Fletcher just in front of him. Drew recovering after that little moment earlier on. John Roberts then in that green Mercedes just up the road is in the final point scoring position at the minute. Don't forget, only the top 20 score points in each race, and that runs the same in the sprint races as well. A sprint race format will be returning for season 5 as well. It's been a really, really big hit with some of the drivers. They've loved the idea that we have these quick races and you have not long in between the two to get a turnaround sorted as well. And it's been very exciting for us to watch because it's more opportunities on the night as well to get points. They've acted as a bit of a shake-up to the championship, haven't they?
Yeah, they really have, and we have noticed that some drivers, the attendance hasn't been the highest on some of the sprint races, but that does give a lot of drivers that have really gained in the championship, and also the idea of the reverse grids as well has seen some wonderful races. I mean, it was able to give us that great race that saw Christopher Smith win his first ever race, and I think that was something that we wouldn't necessarily see too much of if we just kept the 1 hour format.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It's been very, very close all the way through. Just keeping our eye here on what these guys are doing in terms of lap times, because we've got 2:08.7s, 2:08.9s, 8s, 8s, and then a 2:09.0 from Christopher Smith. They're all within about 0.3 of a second of each other on every lap, but Taylor Adams has lost a bunch of time on the previous lap. He was a second slower than James Holman. He was absolutely flying before that, though. But on that last lap, like I say, a second dropped off out of nowhere, so I'm not quite sure what he's done. But he's still back on the pace again now. We'll see what the lap time is as he crosses the line. Swooping through this last sector. Love that view down from the top of the hill. 2:08.8 for Taylor Adams, 2:08.893 for James Holman. So, yeah, he's still just eking a tiny gap out here, but it's not a huge amount at the moment for Taylor Adams. It's very even pace between them all, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll see the pace of Simon Povey when he's got clear air, because he should be coming up to the line fairly quickly, and then we'll start to see if maybe there's a differential that has Simon extend his lead even further. Potentially we'll have a look and see. Obviously, though, over the course of the race, because Simon's gone for the pit stop earlier, that does mean he's going to be spending a higher proportion at a full fuel load, won't he?
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. You have to think about not just track position and where the car is at what time, but what sort of condition the car is in at that time as well. How are the tyres doing? How heavy is it on fuel? Because even in these GT4 cars, you can still feel the difference in the weight of the machine based on the fuel as well. And they are the sort of cars that, if they do get a bit heavy on fuel, they feel very warbly. I suppose one of the main things to consider is that they only have 40% maximum fuel in this championship, so they can't fill it up completely and really affect the weight of the car. They're only going to get about half of the maximum they'll ever feel in the machine, I suppose. That's why it was also very different in the Winter Tour as well, because they had up to 60% fuel in them for the sprint races, which they still have now as well. So the cars are actually different in terms of the setup for the early stages of the sprint races. But right now, they're all just running the same rhythm except for Simon Povey, basically.
Yeah, and Simon Povey's last lap was a 0.881, identical to the lap time set by Taylor Adams. So while he has clear air, he isn't really making the most of it compared to Taylor out in front.
Right on board now with Dominic Brennan in the Porsche. It's good to have Dom back, like I say. No bias whatsoever with the fact that he's running a Sponsec CDM Esports livery. You can see he's putting big pressure on Matt Slight, and funnily enough, Matt Slight is the first of the Regenta cars, well, it's the first of any car outside of Simon Povey to hop into the pit lane here. I realise that I need to fix that camera. I do apologise. We will just get it sorted a little bit. There you go. Can have that. So now we can slightly see the cars that are coming down the pit lane behind the timing tower. But yeah, Matt Slight, first car away from Simon Povey to take to the pits. And usually, oh goodness me, Heinz Mayer getting a bit of a bop there from Mark Johnson. But usually Matt Slight is probably the driver to beat on fuel, isn't he? He and Taylor Adams have been really good at making that McLaren last over a long run.
Yeah, and he's going to come out in behind Simon Povey by quite a bit, but his pit stop is quite a lot longer. We can see Simon was stationary for only 10 seconds. Matt Slight stationary for 23 seconds. So that's quite a lot of time spent in the pits by Matt Slight. So a slightly different strategy to Simon Povey, sort of maybe on the same chapter, but maybe a different book of the strategy guide there.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's sort of reverse engineering the strategy actually by Simon Povey. Instead of getting later on in the race and trying to calculate how much fuel you need to make it to the end, he's just calculating what's come out and sort of how far he's gone to fill the gap of the end of the race, if that makes sense. So he's figured out how long the final stint would be. He's reverse engineered it and used that fuel up, then done a stop to brim the car basically, fill it up again, and then have the longer stint in the middle of the race. So I don't know. It's an interesting roll of the dice. We've seen him do it before to get track position, but this time it seems like he's genuinely doing it on just the maths because he was out in front by so much.
Yeah, it looks to be the case. It's quite interesting though because he was did he take tyres on that stop as well? Because I don't think someone would have done, but I think the 23 is about enough time to take 2 tyres, usually the fronts in those cars. So maybe that was something that was playing into his mind as well, of having a tyre stop at this point of it rather than right at the end. We'll give it some thought and see obviously how it shakes out for him, but I'm not so sure that that was maybe the most optimal decision to make. But Simon Povey is right in the thick of some traffic at the moment. His last lap was a 2-minute 9.21, so he is still losing a little bit of ground to Taylor Adams.
Got a good battle going on here as well, actually. Rob Sharp chasing down Mike Horder, who's trying to get past Dennis Van Beelen in the Seabrooks branded BMW. We've got so many of these cars now out in the field. It's hard to know who's actually part of the team and who's not. But Mike Horder will be fed up of looking at savoury snacks now, and he'll want to get by the number 69 machine. It's a big old BMW to have in your way as well, that car. We were talking to Dan McCauley last week about the fact that you really can't see around these things. And like you said as well, Ed, from your stint in the championship, it's a car that fills the mirrors and fills the windscreen as well. It's never an easy one to battle with. Just looking back at the front, by the way, Taylor Adams is now less than a second ahead of James Holman. James has really turned the wick up on that Mercedes, hasn't he, in these last few laps. I also want to just point out, the scales pattern that Taylor and the guys for Regenta Sim Racing have put on the spec map of this car. That is an incredible little detail. I love that.
It's very, very nice, isn't it?
That's
Taylor
just
Adams.
great design work.
You just see it when the sun just catches off of the roof of the car,
amazing.
actually. Some of these outboard shots, you can just see it. Very subtle.
There's been a little change further back. Nils Core and Dominic Brennan just swapping around there. I think maybe something connection-based, because it happened really, really quickly. I think over the course of a second, they swapped position twice, and they weren't side by side, I can tell you that for free. So yeah, hoping that for Dominic Brennan there is no continuing connection problems, because that's been the bane of his life for a few rounds. And I mean, in all fairness to Dom, for the first few rounds of the championship he was within a shout of the championship. You know, he was right up there, but those few absences have really let him down. The main one being at Monza as well. Monza was just a horrible round for him. He pulled over early on and then eventually I think didn't he disconnect and then he got into the race but wasn't able to qualify or something. He started the race really low down the order.
Yeah, I think so. As Danny Lee has just put in his fastest lap of the race so far in his pursuit of 5th placed Christopher Smith, both in the race and in the championship. This will be 5th for Danny Lee if he can get this move made.
Up through the S's they go. I imagine this is a bit of the circuit where the Aston Martin and the BMW both feel like you're just driving a shopping trolley with an engine in the front of it. You've got all that weight to think of up front, but you've also got 4 wheels that don't want to do what you're trying to tell them to do. And the pair of them are trying to dance with each other as they go up the hill in doing so as well. It's not an easy place to be. We've got a third of the race done, and the battles are definitely not calming down, are they?
Yeah, no, I think, like you mentioned, it's both these cars have their benefits and weaknesses through those S's, because for me, the Aston Martin's a very predictable car, and you can chuck it through the longer corners pretty nicely, and it just does what you want. Same with not necessarily the same with the BMW, it's a bit more lethargic, but both of those cars ride the curves really nicely. As look at Danny Lee up on the inside, but again on the exit, he's just not going to have the pace.
Dominic Brennan's car is blinking in and out a little bit. You can see it there. It was just flickering in the background, and there was bits of debris and rubber and all sorts all over the place. Luckily, it stabilised again, and he wasn't too close to the front of Nils Kor. But if it does carry on, he will probably be notified by the guys that it's an issue. And you know, Dom's a good sport. He has pulled over and moved out of the way numerous times before when he's had connection issues. So hopefully, like I said, that doesn't carry on. But a great battle between Christopher Smith and Danny Lee so far. Really good entertainment. We've also got this going on a little bit further back. Heinz Mayer with possibly the worst view in the entire field right now, having to look at Mr. Blobby in front of him with Stephen Burns in the Win It or Bin It Racing BMW. We're missing his teammate Kyle Ridley here tonight as well, which is a shame, but we thank Kyle again for being such a fantastic sport throughout the championship. He's a really, really solid character to have along, all the way from Australia as well. So when we were racing here at night, it was really early in the morning for Kyle, and bless him, he has been a stalwart of this season. Danny Lee into the pits though, Ed. The first Aston Martin to make his way down the pit lane.
Yeah, realised he was making no progress, not at all quickly, against the defensive might of Christopher Smith, I think it was fair to say. So now he's trying the strategy battle of obviously coming into the pits and getting some clearer air. Just getting onto the tyres as well. Going to be interesting. We're going to see drivers, I think all drivers, if they can do this, because they do get burned through pretty quickly around Suzuka.
Yeah, they do a lot of long, smooth corners, and it's that notoriously slippery Japanese tarmac that everybody talks about when it comes to motorsport. It is always something that just makes the cars feel like they've got no grip whatsoever. I don't know what it is. I remember when I first raced at what used to be known as Thai Circuit Ada, but is now, of course, Okayama in Japan. There was a lot of questions raised over whether iRacing actually does model grip or not. But honestly, that place, it is like an ice rink with some barriers and curbs on it. It's just unreal. Suzuka's not as bad. Tsukuba even is pretty slippery, but yeah, it's definitely Okayama that is the worst for it. We haven't raced there for a long time either. We did race there in the Winter Tour, and that was great entertainment there. I'd love to go back to Okayama. There will be changes to the calendar for next season, but we're going to stick to the same sort of premise that we start in the United States, move over to Europe for 6 of the race meetings, and then head back over to Australasia for the final couple of meetings. 2 rounds in Japan and then 1 in Australia. It's just good to split it up logistically, I suppose. Just give it some sort of simulation from that aspect with the teams travelling the world in the virtual sense. Got John Roberts here, 6 places gained in this race, and Kim Such, actually, the Porsche in front of him, has gained 8 spots as this race has gone on. Biggest mover in the field so far for Oris Racing Green. Drew Fletcher and Gilles Gardner behind these guys as well, also gaining 3 and 6 spots respectively. But let's not forget there's some pit stops that have been done behind them. We'll show you said pit stops on the left hand side of your screen. You can see that Danny Lee and Matt Slight have both pitted. Simon Povey down in 15th position. Don Brennan and Dean Powell are next in, with Mike Horder, Rob Sharp and Ben Chalcraft. So the pit parties are really starting now, Ed.
Yeah, they really are, and I've been just keeping my eyes on the Simon Povey and Taylor Adams battle, even though they're not on the same bit of circuit. And I think Taylor's been edging just slightly ahead of Simon by a few tenths each and every lap. It just seems to be swinging in Taylor's well. James Holman's been breathing down his neck. It's going to be interesting. As I say that, though, Simon quickly replies back, and all of those suddenly those few tenths count for nothing, as Simon has just set the fastest lap of the race so far.
Again, apologies for the connection, everybody. I'm not really sure what's causing it. Everything that Ed and I see at our own end of the scale is absolutely fine. Our connections both say they're absolutely fine. The stream itself is getting full bitrate. Everything is all fine, and for some reason it still sounds like we're talking to each other through paper cups and string at the moment, so we do apologise for that, but there is nothing we can do at this present moment. These two now have actually gained 14 and 12 places each because they have stayed out another lap longer than everybody else in the field. But yeah, Simon Povey, a 2:08.3, is a good couple of tenths faster than anybody else has been in this race so far. No one else actually lower than a 2:08.5 at this present moment, so he's really showing them how it's done. Back up into 9th position. He's ahead of two cars, these two cars in particular, that haven't pitted yet. But there's everybody else in front of him. Taylor Adams, James Holman, Nils Kor, Christopher Smith, Mike Murphy, Dennis Van Beelen, Stephen Burns and Paul Goffin, all yet to pit from the top 10. And Simon will be happy to just crack on and continue the laps. I mean, look, there is the difference, and that is Paul Goffin in 8th position ahead of Simon. Let's not forget he did have a shorter pit stop than everyone else, although Martin Kenyon's had a 7-second stop. Was that maybe from earlier? We'll have to consider that for the end of the race, see whether that's affected it. Taylor Adams into the pits though, Ed. Race leader is in. James Holman just behind. Everybody else now will be coming in. They can't stretch the field that far.
Yeah, they can't. And we'll imagine that Simon will be able to have a sizable lead because he's had a 10-second stop earlier on. But then that does mean that we'll expect to come in maybe around about 7 odd minutes time, do you reckon?
Yeah, I don't think it'll be long before he's back in again, actually. He hasn't separated himself from everyone running the other stint by as much as we usually see. So Simon now flying down the start-finish straight. A few of the other drivers will now be completing their stops, and it's 21 seconds actually for James Holman, and he hops ahead of Taylor Adams, interestingly enough. The Mercedes now comes out in front. They're side by side in the background, are they? No, actually, Christopher Smith just gets ahead of Nils Kor. Here comes Dominic Brennan sweeping around the outside, and he does make it. You have to really make the decision there whether you're going to commit to turn 1 or not with all of these cars coming out of the pits. That is Matt Slight behind Danny Lee and ahead of Dean Powell. He's very much in a pro Simrig sandwich. Mike Murphy just behind these guys as well in the Worcestershire. I still can't say it. Normally I can say it. The Worcestershire sauce livery. There you go. I put too much pressure on myself to say it.
I tell you what, Chaz, though, the pit lane time, sort of pit lane entry to pit lane exit, wasn't that big of a difference, was it, between James Holman and Taylor Adams when you consider the difference of their time spent in the pit boxes themselves?
No,
it was about a 4-second difference. But for Taylor Adams to only lose about a second from differential means that he could maybe have a 4-second shorter stop later, and maybe that will see him leapfrog ahead from James Holman by quite some margin, as Nils Kor looks like he's going to be getting one over potentially Smith here.
Yeah, Christopher Smith just ran really wide through the hairpin. Nils just said, all right then, fine, if you're going to leave the door open, thanks very much, I'll go down the inside. And through goes the newly elect champion. I can't get my words out.
That's the difference, isn't it, Chaz, between the BMW's ability to put the power down and the Aston Martin. On the inside, while Nils Kor was having a sharper steering angle to put on, affect the Aston Martin a lot more because of the traction control kicking in. Whereas on the BMW, it just sits with it quite happily and gets up and goes.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because you can over-rotate the car so much more easily as a result. A lot of people always say don't run a car with traction control on, you'd rather run without it, because then it's just down to you behind the wheel, the fleshy bit behind the wheel that is limiting the car, as opposed to the car limiting you. And it also gives you the impression that you've got a disconnect between yourself and what the car is doing as well. So it's always best to try and run it without. There is a McLaren hidden behind that Mercedes, believe me. James Holman, second place at the moment with Taylor Adams right up his exhaust pipe, and it is up the exhaust pipe of the Mercedes because it is at the back of the car, as opposed to a lot of GT cars where it comes out of the side. It's usually GT3 cars though where that is the case. All GT4s, as far as I know, the exhaust do come out the back. I'm just trying to think if it's any different. The Porsche definitely does. Yeah, it's all of them. All the GT4s, the exhausts are conventionally out the back of the car. It sounds like a very stupid thing to think about, but yeah, all GT3s pretty much have side exhausts now, as opposed to rear ones. Maybe the Lamborghinis and the Ferraris do not. But James Holman Well, he's made it work, hasn't he, in that pit stop. That is also important to be ahead of Taylor Adams at this point in terms of the team's championship. I'm going to get doing some maths here, Ed, but to be honest, James Holman, he's on for 22 points in 2nd position. Taylor Adams is on for 20. And then with Christopher Smith in 6th position, he's on for 15. And then Matt Slight, he's actually down in 8th place now as Matt Slight. He's on for 13. So Regenta Sim Racing would lose the championship win by 21 points now, actually. RD Simsport would gain 4 points on them.
Yeah, that earlier pit stop has not worked out at all. Like, has it seen him drop back now 4 places from where he was, and he didn't really spend during the pits, did he, than those around him. So that's a very surprising to see Matt Slight down where he currently sees himself. However, I imagine he'll probably be able to get a bit closer. But actually, looking at his pit lane time, did he have a drive-through afterwards? Because he had a pit time of 23.2. Lane time, line to line, it was only 29.92, which seems
for me
strangely short.
For me, it's 46.4.
Oh,
it looks about the same as everyone else.
That's
so
come so different. There's Danny Lee. Ooh,
yeah, he's just sent it on Christopher Smith there, and he just went way too deep into the chicane. We'll have a look at it. He's tried it down the inside. Comes out at the last second. Late as you dare on the brakes. Tries to turn it in to get to the apex just to park it. And great stuff by Christopher Smith. He's aware of the move around the outside. Thank you very much, Sunshine. Off I go. But look, they're still glued to each other here, Ed. This is a great battle, and this is for a championship position.
In the championship is Danny Lee. Look how close he gets through the S's. He definitely seems to have the edge on Christopher Smith. Just not really got the legs.
No, the Aston Martin,
especially where it counts into the overtaking zones.
Yeah, it won't throw itself out the corner. Like you rightly said before, it won't allow itself to be propelled out the corner in that sort of way. The BMW does have the legs on it when it comes out of the corner. It may not handle as brilliantly on deceleration, or it may not be as soft as the Aston Martin, but it's just got that extra bit of punch out the corner, and you do really see it around here at Suzuka. How's Mr. Blobby getting on? Stephen Burns, 15th place at the moment, ahead of Mark Johnson and Heinz Mayer. These two only separated by, well, these three only separated by about a second for some of the latter point-scoring positions. Toby Johns and Martin Kenyon have both been into the pits. They've had 23 and 25-second pit stops. We've got a battle still going on up front, though, because James Holman has got Taylor Adams 0.3 of a second behind him in the McLaren. The Coy livery, certainly, I was going to say flying, but it's quite a flying fish at the moment, isn't it, really, for Taylor Adams? He really is on the move. Look at that. Out of Spoon Curve. He suddenly gains a load of time on Holman. Is James trying to let him through? Is he trying to let him through to then save fuel? I'm not sure. That seemed very strange by Holman.
Very weird, yeah. Like the amount he gained that quickly as well was...
It's like he missed a gear change or something, but you can't do that in Flappy Paddle.
Maybe. No, that was... I haven't seen extreme, at least in terms of the sort of speed differential from one corner to the next, but you can see that Taylor Adams is quite content just to bump Holman along, really. Get him as much speed as he can down the straights to help them both out, I guess.
Dominic Brennan and Nils Kaur just behind these guys as well, gradually closing in as the battle carries on. Got 4 different manufacturers here within the top 5. Holman in the Mercedes, Taylor Adams in the McLaren, Dominic Brennan in the Porsche, and then Nils Kaur in the BMW. He's then got Christopher Smith, another BMW, followed by another Aston, and another McLaren in the form of Matt Slight. But this is, again, what we've always had in this championship here, Ed. So many great battles within the top 10. We've always got these little groups and packs of drivers, haven't we, that are all close together, and it's always anybody from the top 10, isn't it? They're all so easily sort of matched against one another that you never know who's going to end up where in these top 10s. It's brilliant.
It is wonderful to see, like you say. It's difficult to predict who's going to be where come round, but you know that there's going to be some great battling no matter who's going to be involved. Just see Christopher Smith again. I thought for a minute going to try and look up the inside.
Yeah, it looks like he's threatening to make the move, but he's just... I mean, we've seen it before from Danny Lee, where he has a fake and he has a look down the inside here and there to fill the mirrors and maybe just try and scare the driver in front. But at this point, he's not doing as much of that, where he's having a bit of a slow fake to the inside, just gradually coasting to the stop on the apex and getting as close as he can to the back of that big BMW. Has a bit of a wiggle out of Spoon curve. Not a good place to have one of them either, because there's a nasty bit of AstroTurf on the exit there that you can very easily spin the car around. They go back up the hill towards 130R, terrifying corner. I don't really know why it's called 130R either, because it's a left-hander, not a right-hander. Still, Danny Lee now looks down the inside again. Does he try and go late on the brakes? No, that's one of his little fakes there, to try and improvise a move as Simon Povey comes into the pits. But we jump on board with another McLaren here, which is Matt Slight. Oh, big wiggle there by Danny Lee. I bet that looked good on the stream, Ed. Flipping heck.
That was, yeah, he was really fighting the car there, using all of the direct drive feedback just to know exactly how to recover it. But these two have been really going at it all race long, haven't they?
Yeah, they carry on once again, and it's a season-long battle that we have been loving watching. Simon Povey, 24 seconds stationary, has his second stop done. That should give him 24 minutes now in the tank, and he's got 2.5 seconds over Stephen Burns, i.e. Mr. Blobby, and he's got 9.8 seconds ahead to Rob Sharp. He's come out in a fantastic position there as Simon, because straight off the bat he can get his foot down now and work on this stint. And to be fair, with the time he's got left to catch Rob Sharp in front of him, I don't think he's going to get to Rob before Rob has to pit, you know.
Have a look and see. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. There's a lot of time going, and there's a lot of space, isn't there, between them? I mean, Simon Povey last few laps he's been running in the low sort of 2-minute 8s. Rob Sharp's been running in the low 2-minute 9s. About a 2-minute lap, so yeah, he should have clear air from now to the end of the race.
You can see the difference between the two there as well. The number 13 on the track map is where Rob Sharp is right now, who we are watching currently, and Simon Povey is the grey number 14 on said track map. The two of them still separated by 9.5 seconds, so yeah, Simon isn't going to make that up in about sort of 10 minutes or so. We know Simon's rapid, but even still, that is a big old gap to try and break down. Holman still leads the race then. The top four are separated by 1.1 seconds right now, and look how much grass these guys are using as they head into 130R. They really are using all of the road and some more just to help the cars get that extra bit of rotation.
It's again, the drivers trying every little trick that they can. When you get to this level, the drivers do know the little intricacies of iRacing, and intricacies of the cars as well. You can see though what Nils Kaur can do, because he didn't have the best qualifying, did he?
No.
Chaz? I mean, Nils Kaur in qualifying was down in, was it 7th place we saw him?
I think he was
Not
8th
at all
in the
what
end,
we were
was he?
expecting.
No, 7th, you're right.
In the end, was it? Ooh,
7th, yeah.
Oh no, it was 7th, okay. So it was not what we were expecting at all from the, well,
Newly
the championship victor, isn't he? Our newly crowned champion. But again, it's just great to see his ability in the races to come back, and he's now right up behind Dominic Brennan. In fact, you can see the race leader, James Holman, just a few cars up the road.
And he's doing a lot of fuel saving right now as well as Nils Kaur. Some big lifting and coasting into turns 1 and 2. He was off the throttle so early. He could actually jump these guys. I mean, look at that there. Barely touching the throttle through the entirety of the Degners. He is certainly on a mission here to save fuel. Listen again as we go up towards the hairpin now. He'll probably lift at the right kink. That's remarkable from Nils Kaur. He's doing so much fuel saving, all to hopefully jump these guys at the end. He may not get with Simon Povey, but he could easily get himself 2nd place in this race right now, because theoretically that's what these guys are battling over. It may be the race lead at the moment for James Holman, but Simon Povey does have a solid advantage. We'll have to see if his strategy works out properly in the long run, but it's been a mighty fine effort by these guys so far. We're not going to update the championship points as of just yet, because we still have the extra pit stops to think about for these lot. So we'll just have to give it a minute. But before, it was RD Simsport still leading the championship. And to be honest, unless something major happens to either James Holman or Christopher Smith, I think it's looking like another title for RD Simsport here, Ed.
Yeah, it certainly does. And I think looking over it, it's going to be the balance of just consistency over the course of the season, because we do know that while Regenta Sun Racing maybe have had the better sort of overall races, a few moments here and there. I think for me it was the opening round of the season. Them sort of struggled, wasn't it? Just got caught up in incidents, and then also I think Lebanon was another one where both of them really, I think, struggled. So that's going to be things to look back on over the course of the season, and to maybe think about next season as well. Is just maybe improving like consistency and not worrying too much and getting caught out by silly mistakes.
Yeah, their quick fire, flash in the pan pace has been amazing for Regenta Sim Racing. They've often topped every practice session that we've been in. It's just the race strategy sometimes hasn't quite worked for them, but they've been very consistent in terms of their own driving. It's just the odd little mistake here or there that just broke through. So, yeah, it's been, I like to say though, great to have another new team in the championship. There's been a bunch of them as well this season. Minardi Simsport joining us, Danny Lee Pro Simrig team as well. It's just been great. Win It or Bin It Racing as well, Kyle Ridley and Stephen Burns. The Oris Racing guys have brought 2 squads to the table for this season, Oris Racing Green and Oris Racing Yellow. Ralph and Heinz Mayer, and then Kim Such and Ryan Penny as well. The SRM team have had 2 teams, SRM Yellow and SRM Black. It's just been another great campaign full of new drivers and new blood to the series that has just made it more and more competitive. Now all of a sudden Taylor Adams has gone from being slightly attacked by Dominic Brennan to suddenly looking like he wants to have a go here at the back of James Holman's Mercedes. James is really wrangling this car. He's the highest placed Mercedes in the field and often is, but he is having to work overtime now by the look of it to keep Taylor Adams at bay.
Yeah, again, Taylor Adams, I don't know if he's actually going to be looking for that position just yet, because once more we're going to see a bit of bump drafting all the way down to 130R.
Absolutely all over the back of him. Through the rapid left-hander they go. And it seems all well and good. Nils Core at the back of this, just watching, but again, he's on no revs whatsoever because he's just saving fuel. He's saving it by the gallon at the minute. And to be fair, you'd think Dominic Brennan will probably be doing the same as well. He's trying to make this work, as he could very much jump these guys in the pits as well. It's just being in front of Nils Core. He needs to think about saving his own fuel and, well, obviously using his fuel to stay in front. Matt Slight into the pit lane now. He pitted a lap ahead of the rest of the field earlier on, and he's now sticking with that strategy, and in he comes down the hill. It's a very bumpy pit lane as it is at Snetterton. Simon Povey just crossing the line. Simon still has a good gap in front of him, you know, to Rob Sharp. He's got 7.2 seconds, so like I said, he's really not eaten into that much. It's been 7 minutes since we looked at that gap as well. Maybe Simon's saving a bit of fuel as well just to play it safe to the end, because let's not forget, Ed, it's a long lap round here. If it goes 1 extra lap, you're talking a good, well, nearly 2.25 minutes.
Yeah, again, Simon's last lap was dangerously close, wasn't it, to his fastest lap and the fastest lap of the race so far. So he's certainly not slowing down by any stretch of the imagination. Might be saving fuel, but certainly not saving any pace.
No, he's absolutely on it, as always is Simon. Wouldn't expect anything less. Great battle going on here. Dennis Van Beelen with Mike Horder and Ben Chalcraft right behind, but Rob Sharp as well in this little group. It's another fantastic quartet of drivers that have been glued to each other. Just inside the top 10 as well, Dennis Van Beelen. Dennis has been another great addition to the series. You know, he was teammates with Nils Core previously at Chicane Online Racing, and Nils has told his teammate just how great this championship is, and Dennis has also jumped in and embraced the humour and the banter of the championship. It's been lovely to have him along once more. But it's James Holman that is at the very top of the pile here, and he's trying to hold on to it because Taylor Adams is putting all sorts of pressure on. This is the thing though, Taylor's not going for a move in particular. He's just trying to unsettle James that little bit, and fingers crossed he'll make a mistake from Taylor's perspective.
Yeah, it's again not wanting to battle because they'll just slow everyone down and just give Simon even more of an advantage over the rest of the field. So it's just playing the strategy game more than anything else, and potentially any of these drivers could come into the pits now and go till the end of the race, maybe find themselves in that gap in behind or just ahead of Simon Povey, because we know Simon did struggle with a little bit of traffic earlier on. It's not a foregone conclusion that he's going to be out ahead as he sees, well, Rob Sharp going very slowly of the Cantillo Triangle.
Mike Horder and Rob Sharp. Oh, Rob's missed his braking point. Oh, and he's absolutely drilled the side of the Aston Martin. Oh, that is terrifying stuff there. Rob Sharp just overdoing it a little bit on the way into the chicane. This is how Mike Horder felt it. Oh, it didn't seem as dramatic on board, actually, as I was expecting. Selfless stuff as well by Mike. He slammed on the brakes and made sure that he didn't sort of drift back onto the circuit in front of Ben Chalcraft, but this is Rob Sharp's view of it. Oh, the throttle stuck open there, actually. The throttle stayed in. It definitely sounded like he didn't lift off the throttle at all. Very strange.
It was weird because the engine note was jumping around as if he was trying to maybe like shift down, but it wasn't shifting down or slowing at all.
That was really, really strange. James Holman somehow, by the way, has just opened up a bigger gap over these guys of nearly 3/4 of a second. He's done a purple sector 3 on this 6-sector lap. And he's absolutely flying right now, is James. Maybe this is his in-lap, I don't know. But he's really on the move. He's got Toby Johns just up the road. Taylor Adams is having to defend from Dominic Brennan and Nils Kaur now. This race has been, I mean, it's what I call a reverse Newton's cradle here with Taylor Adams. Usually it's the balls on the outside of the Newton's cradle that move, isn't it? But this time it's the ones on the inside that are constantly rattling around off each other as they all try and get one over on each other.
James Holman, like you said, rightly mentioned, this could be an in-lap because we were just mentioning these drivers potentially making their final pit stops sooner rather than later. Level from the seat. They approach the next right-hander up to the line.
Yep.
And it's a very... Tom, and you were absolutely right to point that out, Chaz. He's coming to the pits now.
Danny Lee also in the pits as well after his relentless chase of Christopher Smith. You can see Chris in the BMW not far off the back of this pack, actually. Dean Powell going through, Mike Murphy carrying on as well. Nobody else coming into the pits just yet. We'll have to keep our eye on Simon Povey and where he is in relation to these pit stops, because James Holman is in his box now. And how long is he going to be stationary for? Because Simon was stationary for about 10 seconds in his earlier stop, and James Holman's gone way over that, actually. James Holman's still not moving. 15.8 seconds for James, and that is the gap. So Simon has pulled a blinder here, but it was one of those where we didn't know until we knew. And it looks like James is actually going to get overtaken there, is he? That's Heinz Mayer in the Porsche just next to him. James just staying in front.
Wonderful stuff, wasn't it, there by Simon? The strategy really just coming to for him, and now he's got a bit more. Has he got a bit more clear air? No, he's going to catch Mike Corder fairly soon, actually.
Yeah, he's a second behind him at the moment.
Quite as much clear air, but I don't think he'll get held up too much. The pace of Mike is pretty decent, so you shouldn't be having to struggle too much about being held up. In fact, he could just sit behind him and save a bit more fuel. Go towards the end of the race.
Looking back at the front.
Adams, though, look at the clear track that he's got ahead of him now, and he's going to be loving it, I think, because he was maybe getting held up a little bit behind that Mercedes.
Yeah, he's going to be enjoying himself a little bit more now with the fact that he doesn't have to sort of compromise for a car in front or a car that's maybe trying to save fuel. I don't think James was really, because there'd be a bit too much mind games going on there. I think he just needs to just crack on with the race at the front, and James is good at that. You know, he's a fantastic pedaler, so it's hard to know at this point. But Taylor Adams now is certainly pushing as well. I think these guys will be pitting this lap or the next one. I don't think they're going to be able to stretch it much further than that, as Dominic Brennan is the one that comes in, and actually Taylor Adams and Nils Kaur, as we've seen many times before, are the duo that continue on the outside of the pit lane while everyone else jumps in. Christopher Smith and Dean Powell both in as well. Mike Murphy has made the fuel last, either that or he's not been reading the fuel gauge. That behind him is Toby Johns in the background. But yeah, Mike Murphy under the radar.
And Bealen as well, I think, is going to keep going as well.
Yes,
yes,
and Ben Chalcraft, the Beamers, flipping out. The Beamers are sipping fuel here. There's Simon Povey, look, in the background. None of the potential leaders are even leaving the pit lane yet. Look at Dominic Brennan.
Whoa.
Dominic Brennan is
I mean,
not...
the Porsche, we know the Porsche's very good on its fuel as well, and he's way ahead of James Holman there.
Yeah.
So that's been a great turn up for Dominic there. It could be a Spontex CDM 1-2 to round out the season here.
Oh, don't get me too excited, Ed. So 3.2 seconds Dominic Brennan was in the pits less than James Holman. So yeah, it's certainly worked out for the little Porsche. Great return for Dominic Brennan. Just needs to keep it on the island until the end now. Here's Taylor Adams and Nils Kaur, the two drivers that for the majority of the season have been the ones battling for the title. Taylor just fell off a little bit mid-season where Nils had his ultimate consistency. I mean, to be fair, I said earlier that Nils bounced back from that disappointment of the first round, and he got 4 race victories on the bounce, did Nils Kor. It was just remarkable stuff. We've not seen anybody do that in a long, long time, and he's just, I think that really highlighted the beginning of Nils making this his championship, because he won 4 on the bounce, and then he had 1 off round when that was the second race actually at, I believe, the Red Bull Ring. And then, since then, he's been on the podium in every single race, taking another race victory along the way. 6 of those race wins were not his because Simon Povey took them. So it's been just a remarkable season for Nils Kor, and like I say, that early stint where he won 4 on the bounce was really what sort of cemented it in the early stages.
Yeah, it was very, very impressive, wasn't it, that mid-season form by Nils Kor. And just seeing now, James Holman has got a horrible view, hasn't he, of Stephen Burns up ahead. That Mr. Blobby, well, it is a great big car, isn't it, that BMW.
I think they said that they ran it in the Nürburgring 24-hour, actually. That's why they wanted to run it this time. I don't know what relation that has to this race, but still, James Holman through. I
think I saw like something about a champion on the side of it on the.
They're the Jetta Cup champions.
Something champion.
They won the Racing Line Jetta Cup run by our good friend Jack Johns, who has commentated on Chaz Draycott Media before. He ran that championship for a long time. Still does, I think. He's still doing the Jetta Cup again at some point. But yeah, those guys won the title last time out. Funnily enough, they then got teamed up with each other in the British Boring Car Championship here on Chaz Draycott Media. They ended up in the random team draw. They still ended up as teammates. They won that as well. And yeah, now they're together in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. It's a lovely little sort of family scenario for the Win It or Bin It Racing guys.
Well, you see is actually having a look further down the order. I was just seeing the Christopher Smith-Danny Lee battle. Christopher Smith has got a nice little gap, hasn't he? Because, well, Chris has got Dean Powell right behind him, and there's then 4 seconds to Danny Lee.
He's actually got 4 seconds to Dean Powell. He's
got 4 seconds. Dean Powell, sorry, that was my mistake.
Dean Powell and Danny Lee in flying formation with each other here in 10th and 11th. Danny Lee was in the pits for 4 seconds longer than his teammate, so not quite sure what's gone on there, but the Aston Martin has dropped down a number of places, which is a real shame. I say a number of, it's 2, but still, it's more than 1. And it's a number, so sue me. James Holman and Christopher Smith have actually both made their way past Stephen Burns now as well, so that's a couple more points into the favour of Christopher Smith in that championship battle between those 2 individuals. Let's see what happens at the front here, Ed. Taylor Adams and Nils Kor both together. Both? No. Oh my goodness me. Well, is that ominous or is that ominous?
Taylor Adams just come into the pits now. Nils Kor leads the way. Mike Murphy, I'm sorry, has just come into the pits. We expect Dennis Van Beelen to do the same as well. And then we'll have a look to see Simon Povey
already
come out in relation to Taylor Adams.
Yeah, Taylor is only just going to get moving any second now. Still not moving, still not moving. Wow, Taylor Adams' stop is a longer one, 15 seconds. A lot of them have been about 12. Actually, no, I say that. They're about 13 to 15 seconds normally. There goes Dominic Brennan going through, and here comes James Holman in the Mercedes trying to dive through. And Taylor Adams is now back out just in front, but only a car length or so. And that will certainly shake up the RD Simsport but Regenta battle, although not by enough, to be honest with you. RD Simsport running in 5th and 6th positions at the moment will give them 16 and 15 points. Even if Taylor Adams finishes in 4th with his teammate down in 10th place, they are still going to lose the championship by 19 points. And Holman is actually already making a move to go through. Wow, great opportunism, still side by side down towards the Degners. And well, Taylor Adams says, after you, mate, you know what, you can have that one. He's not fighting it too hard, he's just thinking about banking the points now, is Taylor. But James Holman, great work that. He knew straight away, didn't he? As soon as Taylor came out of the pits in front of him, he had to get by as soon as possible.
Yeah, Nils Kor can out in front and could be leading what is his final lead lap of the season. Going to the pits, and Simon Povey, with the strategy he's been able to pull off, more than likely going to take full advantage of that and go into the lead of the race. Dominic Brennan as well, shout out to him. We haven't spoken about him for much of the race, have we? He's not really been involved in any battles, but just saving the fuel, looking after the strategy, and it's been working out brilliantly for him.
Yeah, he's done a mega job. This is what Dom's really good at as well. These under-the-radar drives, and he's returned to the championship with... He had a bit of a connection issue earlier, but it's not been anything like it was. And it's been lovely to see it because he's been able to just focus on the racing, focus on his driving, and put in some epic pace. And like I say, in the first few rounds of the championship, he actually finished second to Simon Povey, I believe. He was second, third, and then he had another third in round 4 of the championship. He was right up there in the points. And then since then, he scored 3 pretty decent points finishes, but then he had a run of 3 non-scores, and he's had a non-score in the previous round and also a complete 0 as well, because he didn't even start the race aside from that. So yeah, unfortunately he's not had it work out. But would you look at this?
Oh my word.
Can we just...
What was that? An 8-second stop from Nils Kor?
Can we just... I'm sorry. Nils Kor is now in second place, only 3 seconds behind Simon Povey, after having an 8.4 second pit stop, as opposed to the 12, 15, 15 and 15 of the drivers behind. That, my friends, is ultimate fuel saving, and I mean, the mark of a champion. That's why Nils Kor is the champion of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge, because that is disgusting race management. That is amazing.
Up 5 positions from where he qualified, from 7th to 2nd. What a brilliant measure of the scene from a lot of these drivers all season. I think Nils Kor has just given us a clinic in exactly how to do it. Look at the time that he's been able to get on all of those around him. I mean, let's not forget he was just ahead of Christopher Smith, wasn't he, for most of the race? And in fact, actually, just before the pit stops came through, I think we saw Christopher Smith closing up to those drivers. Christopher Smith himself has had a pretty decent run of it, building a gap to Dean Powell and Danny Lee for his championship. But Nils Kor, what on earth has he done there? That is beyond belief.
It's just absolute magic by Nils Kor. Absolute magic. I want to know how he's done that, because that is just amazing. We'll have a word with him after the race, hopefully. Just 3 minutes left to go here at Suzuka in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge, the final race of Season 4. Another quick word for our sponsors as well, Loris Digital, Crockery Direct, Derbyshire Holiday Homes and Bespoke Shelters. It's a joy as always to have you guys on board, and we really do appreciate the support for this great series, which we, Chaz, Draycott and Ed May, have really enjoyed broadcasting for you all once again. And also thanks again to Dan McCauley for jumping in last week in the commentary box. Thanks also to Andy Marston, the man behind Sim Racing Magazine, for giving me the blessing to run this under his umbrella as well. It's been great fun. There's a change of team orders here, Ed, as Danny Lee goes ahead of Dean Powell, hoping to secure those extra couple of points. It's a shame for Matt Slight. He's not really had the race he would have wanted here. He's dropped down 6 places from where he started. Let's not forget he was 4th on the grid, and the strategy just hasn't worked for him. 21 seconds that second stop as well. That's a good 6 seconds less, or longer I should say, than the drivers around him. But at the moment, it's still Simon Povey leading the way. He's not got anywhere near the gap we would have expected, with Nils Kor 2.5 seconds back. But Simon has done everything right once again here tonight, Ed.
He really has done. He's just... I thought it might have been a slight mistake coming out into all of that traffic, but Simon shut me up brilliantly, as he often does all of the season whenever we try and question his strategies. He's put through a brilliant race. He wasn't giving any slipstream to anyone else. Drove his own race, and I think he went about his business absolutely to perfection. Wonderful stuff. I think we will get one more lap.
Yes.
With 1.5 minutes to go as we're making our way to 130R. So it should be nice and smooth till the end of the race.
Yeah, he's just got one more run. You do wonder whether he has to save a little bit of fuel on this final lap, whether he knew that they were going to go the extra 2 minutes, but then again, not too far away from having 1 minute of the race left, so he doesn't have to do the full extra 2 minutes. But you can bet right now that Nils Kor is going to be pushing like mad to try and go chasing after him on this final lap. He's definitely filled the car enough, because he is not slowing down whatsoever. Nils is just trying to do this on pure pace right now. But we go on to the final lap of the season in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge, and the battles are still going on all the way up and down the order. We've got James Holman just ahead of Taylor Adams here. There's a fight further down between Drew Fletcher and John Roberts. John trying to squeeze that Mercedes down the inside of the Porsche. This is for the final championship point as well, for 20th place. Paul Goffin has unfortunately had a drama. He's been overtaken here by... Oh, Mark Johnson puts his nose down the inside. Paul doesn't want to give that one up, and a little bit of contact as a result, I'm afraid. Here's Rob Sharp across the line. 13th place.
I think now we're just waiting, aren't we, Chaz, for the season to end with Simon Motegi and Nils Court. I mean, again, it's almost taken a shine off of Dominic Brennan's drive, hasn't it? What Nils Court just waxing lyrical about how great he was doing, saving the fuel, and then all of a sudden, Nils Court just does that.
Yeah, absolutely blows everyone else's strategy out of the water, doesn't it? Absolutely. And the thing is, there was no hint at that earlier on either. There was no massive difference in the earlier pit stops. There was no sort of early warning device about it, as Heinz Mayer has just come out of the pits for Oris Racing Yellow. He's still going to stay ahead of Drew Fletcher and John Roberts, so I was just going to see if that final points position was up for grabs in a different manner there, as Heinz returns onto the circuit. Drew's run a little bit wide into turn 2 there. Roberts finds a gap down the inside. Drew tries to squeeze him to the apex. The two of them glued to each other as they head back up the hill, up the S's. Great battle in this door-to-door stuff. Drew's just got enough room down the inside for that Mercedes. John has a bit of a wiggle on the exit. Great racing that. Really nip and tuck stuff that. As John's now going to try and get another cutback. But unfortunately, boys, we need to head further forward, because this man is going to do an unbelievable thing. And in a round... well, the final round of a 15-round championship, Simon Povey is going to take win number 8 of the campaign and complete the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge in style ahead of Nils Court with a heroic effort on the fuel. And welcome back Dominic Brennan with a podium. Great stuff. Taylor Adams is next up, and he's ahead of James Holman, who is going to complete the championship for RD Simsport. They are the team's champions in Season 4 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. Very well done to RD Simsport. A lovely campaign. Mike Murphy under the radar, and flying formation for Danny Lee Pro Sim Rig. What a great team they've been this season. Dean Powell and Matt Slight are the drivers that complete the top 10. But Nils Court is your champion, everybody, and he completes the season with a very Nils Court drive, doesn't he?
Very classic Nils Court drive, that one. Really good. I think one of the feel-good stories of the night has got to be Brennan getting the podium on his return after all the connection issues he suffered all season long. It finally worked out for him and saw him get that podium finish.
Yeah, really good stuff from Dominic Brennan. You'd love to see it. I think he's just running out of fuel right now, actually. The car doesn't want to go anywhere. But Simon Povey, he's getting a push from James Holman. RD Simsport are the team's champions, and rightly so as well. You know, those guys have been brilliant for the last couple of seasons and really brought the fight to everybody, and they have done it at the very top. And, well, I mean, they didn't have it easy, did they? None of them did. So many of the drivers at the top end of the order, as soon as this championship got underway, we saw just how ridiculously competitive it was, didn't we, Ed? And it's not let off at all season.
It really hasn't. It's been one heck of a season from start to finish, and Simon Povey has just been on another level, but Nils Court's consistency has been the real difference maker, and we can see a little bit of bumping from Mike Murphy there, getting a little helping hand from Christopher Smith.
Yeah, that was Ben Chalcraft giving him a shove, his teammate. These two have been absolute superstars this season as well. I want to give a big thanks to Ben Chalcraft for bringing the fantastic entertainment that has been the whole Seabrooks branded liveries this season. He ran it as a one-off in the Winter Tour, but the guys have really brought the heat with the liveries this season. It's been so funny. It's been really good entertainment. Let's have a look at some final standings from this race, shall we? Simon Povey wins with Nils Court in second place. Would you expect it any other way? Dominic Brennan with a great podium in third place, ahead of Taylor Adams and James Holman. He and Christopher Smith take the title for RD Simsport, ahead of Mike Murphy and Danny Lee, with Dean Powell in ninth and Matt Slight completing the top 10. Hats off as well to Taylor Adams and Matt Slight. Great effort all season in the team's championship. Dennis Van Beelen finishes 11th, ahead of Ben Chalcraft, with Rob Sharp in 13th. Stephen Burns, Mr. Blobby, finishes in 14th with Mark Johnson 15th. Without context, that sounds really rude, doesn't it? Paul Goffin is 16th ahead of Mike Horder and Ralph Mayer, with Heinz Mayer and Drew Fletcher completing the point scorers in the final round. Then it was John Roberts in 21st, with Kim Such in 22nd, Gilles Gardner and Martin Kenyon the last cars on the lead lap, Toby Johns 1 lap down, and Andy Marston 5 laps down come the end. Let's see who we've got for an interview, shall we, Ed? We'll hop back over to the correct Discord first off, because I forgot we did that. Bear with us. And I think what we ought to do is we will bring in our newly crowned champion after an amazing final performance. Niels, how on God's earth did you save that much fuel? That was remarkable.
Well, as it usually goes, it all started because I didn't manage to set a proper quali lap. I could have set a lap that was like half a second quicker, but I just kept off-tracking everything because I might have not done even enough practice before the race. And then, yeah, I was just stuck behind the train the whole time. And when you have a bit more pace than the guys ahead of you, you can automatically save a lot of fuel. Unfortunately, I wasn't really able to overtake them.
I was going to say it looked difficult to overtake tonight. Usually Suzuka is one of those circuits where it can go one way or the other, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's quite tricky. It's already quite tricky with these fixed setups in GT4 with the BMW to overtake anything on most tracks. But here it's especially difficult. I only managed to do it on Christopher, who is also on the BMW, and he also did a mistake previous to it. And then obviously there was that move on Danny at the start of the race, which I was very surprised to not get a slowdown.
I was going to say, we did wonder about that, and then I think because there was so much going on, we actually forgot about it in the end. But yeah, it certainly looked like an instance where you could get a slowdown, but still, you got away with it. Talk to us about your season though, Nils. Obviously, you come away from this as the champion of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge, but it's not been easy, has it really? I mean, you've made it look easy at points, but it's been competitive this season.
Yeah, it's definitely been quite an effort to make this happen. After I heard that Simon had to miss a few rounds, I was already thinking, okay, I definitely have a chance here. And then, to my surprise, Taylor was kept up his strong pace from the start of the season. He was quite a bit slower in the winter tour still, and he definitely made a big step up and really kept me on my toes.
Yeah, that's one of the best things about it, though. You know, we were saying this during the race, that out of the sort of top 10, top 15 drivers, you never really knew who was going to be battling who, because everyone was on such a similar pace. It certainly looked entertaining from here. Will we be seeing you again in the next season, with our fingers crossed?
I can't say right now.
Okay.
But I would definitely like to. Gotta wait for what the schedule looks like, and then I'd say the chance is pretty high that I will be there again.
Well, we look forward to seeing you defend the title, Nils. It's been an absolute pleasure once again, mate. Great entertainment. And before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a final thanks to?
Yeah, as always, my team Satellite Racing. Then also shout out to Dennis, who unfortunately just about missed out on the top 10 this time, and also shout out to the Minardi guys who made these awesome liveries for this race.
It's been fantastic fun to see all the Seabrooks branded cars. Thank you for jumping on the bandwagon and running that as well. It was great fun. But thank you very much, Nils. Massive congratulations again from all of us on your title, and enjoy the off season, my friend, and we'll see you very soon. Unfortunately, my connection died a bit of a death there, everybody. I'm so sorry about that. What we'll do very quickly is move on and bring in, or speaking of quickly, the man who has won the most races in a season and he's done it in emphatic style because with 7 wins out of the last 9 races, Simon Povey joins us in the box. Simon, I know you want to show off, but flipping out, mate, that was ridiculous. You must feel on top of the world right now.
Yeah, that was fun. I've wanted to try. It's a stupid tactic, like pitting that early because it puts you in a lot of traffic. But I've kind of wanted to try it all season, just to see how it would go. And I knew that Taylor was just going to sit and save fuel behind me, so I had to get away, and that was the best way of doing it. Yeah, I lost quite a lot of time on the first. After I'd done the 4 laps, came in and came out, there was quite a lot of time lost on that stint. But the last stint, I had quite a lot of clear air, so I managed to gain it back again. And then Nils was absolutely flying at the end, and I think you could probably tell that I was basically out of fuel. So I crossed the line with 0.1 litres spluttering, and but yeah, just about held on. I think, and yeah, the BMW was very, very fast at the end, and yeah, a little bit lucky, I think.
Well, still, we knew that from the winter tour that you really enjoyed it round here at Suzuka and had the pace. Was it a round that you were looking forward to in that regard, or do you not really know, sort of going from week to week, how it's going to turn out?
No, I love all the old tracks, basically, because I've been on iRacing for a long time, so the ones that I've clocked up the most hours on are all the classics like Spa and Suzuka. Yeah, I just really love those tracks. I've had to put in the hours this season because we've had a few new tracks on the schedule, so having to learn those, I've probably done more practice than anyone else. That's the other thing. I might have won more races, but I guarantee I've done the most practice out of anyone.
Well, fair enough, Simon, but it's paid off, mate, and it's been a hell of a season for you, and even still close to the title despite missing so many rounds. So well done from us here. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before you go?
Yeah, hi to my mum and Iris, who watch every week, John and Vicky, you guys, all the sponsors, and then just the SRM boys in general. It's a great group of guys. Yeah, a lot of fun on the track and probably more fun off the track as well. So, yeah.
Lovely stuff. Well, it's great to see it, Simon. Thank you very much again for running the Spontex colours as well from me this season. It's been really good fun to see it. And, well, we hope to see you again, of course, in some special events and next season as well. But for now, thanks very much.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Simon Povey, Ed. What a boy. Rapid all the time. Never lets off, does he?
No, he was even completing side quests, wasn't he? Saying, "Oh, I always wanted to do this all season long." He's just going around doing whatever he fancies.
Yeah, was absolutely flying all the way through. And what we want to do now is speak to our newly crowned teams champions, Christopher Smith and James Holman, joining us in the box. Boys, congratulations. You must be a bit relieved after that one, because it started to get a bit nip and tuck at the end, didn't it?
Yeah, I felt pretty decent. I don't know about Chris, how he was. Well, Chris was nervous because he was getting close on the instant limit. But that was the main problem. But no, we had it in hand. I could see where Matt was, and I knew we had a good gap. So it was okay. I was just disappointed in my race pace, to be honest. I was hoping to challenge Simon, and I thought that the Merc would be quite good round there. But Sector 3, I couldn't do anything in Sector 3, and I just needed the track to just be an endless Sector 1, to be honest. That would have been alright.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it does feel really good to be, teams champions. It's a really good prize. I'm very happy. I mean, that's the most I could ever hope for, so I am very chuffed. So thanks.
Yeah, so Chris has driven great all season. Obviously, that first win was fantastic, and now we've just we had none apart from that. That was obviously a massive highlight, but we've just been consistent knocking in the results, and yeah, big thanks to Chris. Obviously, he's been a great teammate this year, and yeah, obviously big thanks to RD as well.
Big thanks to you, James, for turning up every meeting. I mean, all right, yeah, 5 minutes spare, you at least to show up.
Yeah, well, that was I suppose that's the least I can do.
Well, you boys have been right on it. Like you say, it's all about the consistency in it in the team's championship like this, because as I was just saying to some of the guys there, you never really knew. You could probably pick about 15 drivers in the field where you never knew who was going to be right on the pace, did you? There was so much of a mixed bag in the top 10, 15 positions all of the time. It was difficult to judge week on week, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it seemed to be that it was Simon 1 and mostly Niels 2, or sort of that order, and then Taylor obviously was up there, and Taylor had a great season, so congratulations to him as well. The three of them up front were they were just too good for me. I didn't gel with the car, but I was hoping to get that win in the Merc. Silverstone was probably my best shot, and that obviously I had a technical problem that day. So, but yeah, I mean, everyone else. I mean, I had some great battles with numerous people over the course of the season, and it was all great fun, all clean and everything. So I had a real blast, and obviously thank you to Andy Marston for the backing of the series, and obviously thanks to you for the excellent commentary and streaming, and to Ed as well. So and to Dan last week obviously as well. So it's been a great season, and there's a lot of fast boys coming up through that middle pack there. Mike was going well there tonight, I could see as well. So no, it's very good.
Did you get many Seabrook liveries on the field tonight?
Oh, we're fed up of him by the end. But yeah, there was a lot, and it's just another element and another example of just how fun this series is, isn't it, Chris? There's so many great people involved, and week in, week out, regardless of how hard a fight is on track, everyone still gets on off the track as well, don't they?
Yeah, we'll have to get some RD salted liveries prepared.
Oh god,
that was courtesy of Simon Povey.
Yeah, he sent me that earlier in the week, and I had to sit down. I say earlier in the week as if it's not only Tuesday. Jesus Christ, I need to go to bed. Boys, it's been an absolute pleasure again, and obviously congratulations on your team's title. Are there any final thanks you want to give before we round out the stream?
Obviously, thanks to Rob, Team RD Boss, and everyone in the team, and personally, thanks to my wife for putting up with me going onto a rig every Tuesday night, and obviously shout out to my boy as well. He's always sad when I don't put him to bed, and my mum watching at home, and I think even my next door neighbour was watching tonight. So hello to them as well.
Yeah, I'll echo that. Thanks very much to my missus for helping out and covering the bases while I get the practice in and do the race itself. It's a big help. Thank you.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you, boys. Thank you once again for jumping in. Well done on the team's championship. We'll let you enjoy the moment, and we'll hopefully see you next season. Thank you.
Nice one. See you soon.
Cheers, Chaz.
Cheers. And what we'll do actually as well, Ed, is we'll bring in. I want to have a quick word with Heinz Mayer, who is one of the key championship sponsors here and one of the guys that makes this happen. Heinz, welcome to the booth, my friend. A very, very entertaining season for you guys. Constant battles further down the order. You must be pretty pleased with that.
Oh, definitely, yeah. It's been a fantastic season. Thank you, as always, for organising it, and obviously to all the other drivers for taking part. I think we've got a fantastic bunch of people.
We absolutely do. You know, some of the banter with all the Seabrooks liveries and everything going on all season. There's so many people have just jumped on the bandwagon with it. But that's what makes it great, even on track as well, isn't it? That everyone gets on so much behind the scenes. You all know that everyone's going to be racing with a big smile on their face.
Oh, definitely, and I think the respect amongst everyone is super. Even today, when I sort of qualified out of position, the guys were super respectful and didn't push me too hard, but obviously put the loads of pressure on. And I think that's the great thing, is everyone wants the best outcome. It's not that sort of desperate, sort of diving for the pass kind of thing, which makes this series so great.
And thank you, of course, to you, Heinz, as well, for the amazing support from the sponsorship side with all the prizes, the trophies, the champagne, all of it. It's just amazing to have that, and you know, we really, really do appreciate it. We never want to let it go underappreciated, and you know, the support that you guys bring is just great season on season, and we hope that continues on.
Oh no, definitely. I think we'll crack on. I think I don't know if Andy's told you, but I've agreed to sponsor the special event, but. But I mean, the thing is, I always, when we were doing this, I thought, well, how do we make it real, as opposed to just like, way, you won. How do you get something like a medal and a certificate and some chocolates or whatever at the end of the season? You know, just make it a bit more real than just I'm online. Which I think everyone's sort of really appreciated that. But I do have some of the guys stack up their medals and things to the end of the season, and I send out one package, and Simon Povey has this massive pile of stuff I have to send him.
God, don't inflate his ego further. Christ alive. but you know, you're absolutely right though. You know, it makes it a very real thing when the drivers have that trophy or that, you know, the champagne and the certificates and the medals in front of them, and it's lovely to see that feedback in the Discord as well. It's just another element to what's a very positive championship, isn't it?
Oh no, definitely. But the best championship online, I reckon.
I'll have to agree with you there, Heinz. Well, thank you very much for hopping in, mate. Is there anyone you'd like to give a quick thanks to before you go?
Oh no, of course my team, the Oris Racing guys. It's been fantastic racing with them, and then everyone. I mean, everyone, you guys, Andy, Ed, everyone putting on such a great series. It takes loads of people to make this happen, not just the organizers and the sponsors. It takes everyone to make it a great series. So thanks to everyone, and obviously everyone who watches as well.
Well, thank you, Heinz. It's an absolute pleasure as always, mate, and we hope to see you again next season, and hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Cheers.
Thank you.
Lovely stuff. Great to speak to Heinz Mayer there, Ed, and we've not actually had an interview with him before, have we? So it's great to have him finally in the booth.
Yeah, good to have him. He does a lot of work for championship, sort of in behind all the prizes and everything, so it is great to have a word with him, and I think we'll have another driver just to round out the night, because we're feeling generous.
Absolutely, and who else to bring in than Danny Lee from Danny Lee Pro Sim Rig. Danny, your first season in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. Thank you first off for your own point of view streams as well. They've been fantastic entertainment to watch back. How have you found it being in the field this season with us lot?
Well, the thing that me and Dean both agree on is that the quality of the field is really high, and the racing is really good when you can get it. I think that if you took this field of drivers and plonked them in any car, including the ones that are faster and edgier, you would get incredible results. So I think that the crop of drivers you've got, excellent, especially at the front end. It's just 4, 5, 6 cars are just constantly up there fighting for each other. I know Simon takes it to the next level, but I've never seen somebody just so in tune with the car, so you can't envy him for that. He's done a grand job for the rounds he has been present, and after obviously his new child, even more impressive, but he just keeps that pace up. So crazy stuff from him, but it's been a great season of hard fighting.
It really has, and it's just one of those things where we've just been saying it to some of the other guys as well, that the fact that you all know how positive the vibe is off the circuit as well, it makes it more positive on the circuit, doesn't it? Because you know how people will be reacting, and you know what sort of light that everybody sees each move and overtake and every element of the race in.
It sure does. I think I'm always sort of a proponent of leagues. I think they are the best way to enjoy iRacing when you've kind of found your feet and you want to take it to the next level of organisation and competition. Even if you're not the fastest guy out there, you'll still find really good quality competition, and it just makes it a lot better being in a league. So these guys in the SRM have proved themselves to me to be one of the best communities I've been sort of in. We tour all the communities and leagues as best we can, and this is definitely a top tier one. So if anybody's watching and they're sort of half in, half out, just join, because you're going to find that league racing is the best way to enjoy iRacing for sure.
I completely agree. It really is. It just, like you say, it's on the level of organisation as well. You're racing the same people week in, week out. You know what you're going to be getting, rather than a sort of random assortment. And it just makes it so much more fun, because then there's the social aspect as well. But honestly, Danny, it's been great to have you and the guys in this season. Do you reckon we could expect to see you in Season 5 as well?
Unfortunately, I think we're going to be packing our bags and popping over to another series, another car. I think the GT4s, as cool as it is to have multi-manufacturer cars, I think the GT4s, they kind of wear you down after a while. So we're looking for something fresh, something a bit more knife edge. But the quality of a racing when you can get it has been amazing. But when you're on your own in a sort of air sandwich with the GT4s, it can be
it's a slog.
It is a slog sometimes. Yeah. So I think it's time to mix it up a bit, as we usually do, and move on. But it's been a great time while we have been here. The admin and field of drivers has been excellent. So we can't thank everybody enough for making us feel very welcome and supplying some quality racing.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you, Danny, and we obviously wish you the best with whatever series you move on to. It'll be an absolute gain for them to have you, so we really do wish you the best. Is there anyone you'd like to give a quick thanks to before you
go? Thanks to the field of racers, obviously. Brilliant driving, brilliant racing. That's why we've come here. If they weren't any good, then it wouldn't be any good. So thanks to them for all the battles along the way. To the admin for providing us with a good, nice, regular league to attend. And you guys for doing a great job of the broadcast. And everybody watching for giving us their time too. It makes it all worthwhile. So thank you to everybody.
Well, thank you, Danny, and to Dean as well. It's been great to have the pair of you in the championship. Best of luck in the future, my friend, and we will hopefully see you at some point soon.
Cheers, Chaz and Ed. Thank you very much.
Well, there we go. Our final interview of the season with Danny Lee. A shame we won't get them back, Ed, but, you know, completely understandable, isn't it, really? It's one of those things. You have to try everything in iRacing, and the guys are on a great campaign to do so.
Yeah, it's been great to have him here. Obviously, shame that we won't see him for next season, but still, what a season it has been with all of the drivers that we've had, either ones that will return to us or ones that will love us and leave us. It has been a real treat to see them all out on circuit and provide us what has been another all-time Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge season.
Thank you once again to our wonderful sponsors, Orish Digital, Crockery Direct, Derbyshire Holiday Homes and Bespoke Shelters. Really do appreciate it. Thank you to Andy Marston, the man behind Sim Racing Magazine, and all the wonderful drivers and teams as well. Nils Core is your drivers champion and RD Simsport are your teams champions. And Ed May, thank you so much for co-commentating once again. It's been another really, really good fun season. And thank you everybody for watching. That is all we have time for here on Chaz Draycott Media for another season of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. We're back in a few weeks with this same community for the Modern Classics GT3 mashup. There will be another special event as well announced before Season 5, but we'll be back with you in a couple of months for the 5th season of the Championship. But for now, from me and Ed, thank you very much for watching, everybody, and we'll see you again very, very soon. Good night. Four French drivers at the French Grand Prix trying to win this on the final lap. The 3 wide again, Guillaume down the inside. Guillaume moves across, they're both in front of Milan and Pouget.
Before you know it, we find ourselves here in the very final race of the competition.
And then they see truck racing and they think, this is crazy. You know, these are 5-ton machines, 1,200 horsepower brake. Oh, look at that switchback. Oh, you can look, and a drift is going off.
Ben Gregory now, I love this. 16.5 minutes gone. Senna Lanson tries to go for the race lead.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.